I discovered Portugal in my dreams, I would say, is that a lot of people said, when we moved here, oh, you must have gone here as a child and you must have, this must have been your holiday destination. I think I went to Portugal once before we moved, and my husband maybe a few times. But we traveled through Australia and New Zealand with our kids in a camper van for a few months. And we fell in love with the lifestyle, being outside in nature and surfing. And we nearly stayed in Australia, and then reason took over. It's too far. And then we were looking, okay, where can we find this lifestyle, but in Europe, not too far from Amsterdam. And our eye fell on Portugal. So it was an intuitive decision, and one which worked out even better than we hoped. I went here once. I went once to Cascais and to Lisbon, but I didn't know Portugal at all. As a child, we always would go to Italy or to France. And so what I love about Portugal is that you still have the feeling that it's quite raw in some places, and there's still a lot to be discovered. So that was, and there's amazing surf. That was also part of the reason that we moved. So it was, again, like I said, it was an intuitive choice, and one which, we're so happy that we moved, and we're not going anywhere anytime soon.
How was the process of moving here? How did you choose the place, the house, etc.?
It's actually quite a fun story. Is that it didn't start off fun. We decided to move to Portugal, and this is just after we got back from Australia and New Zealand. And then just before we were putting everything in motion to move here, we found out that our daughter was very ill. We found out that she had leukemia, and it's a 2-year process of chemotherapy. But in that time, we said to each other, my husband and I, we're not going to hold off on our dreams. As soon as she's better, we'll move. And then the move to Portugal came much more than just a lifestyle change. It was also a new start, clean living. And the first time that I went away for a few days when she was well enough for me to catch my breath, I came here, I was visiting friends. And we were walking above the hills just behind our house. And I looked down on this house, and it was like an instant love affair. And I could also feel that it was empty, that it wasn't lived in. So we went down this rabbit hole of trying to find out, who owns it, how can we buy it. And at the same time, someone wanted to buy our house in Amsterdam that wasn't for sale, because we were in the middle of this crazy process with our daughter's health. So it was just one of these things that, that this flow that we got into, and we went with it. So we bought the house, we renovated it from afar. And as soon as my daughter finished her treatment, which was in May 2019, we moved in August. And a few months later, the world closed. And we were here in paradise in this nature reserve overlooking the ocean. And we started to explore Portugal, which we didn't know. And we also didn't know if this location that we chose was ideal for us. But now that we're here, we're very close to Cascais, 25 minutes from Lisbon. We're in a forest, but we're still very close to the ocean as well. So it couldn't have been better. Nature is something which features very strongly in my work. So it's always been an inspiration, and the ocean was one of the reasons that we moved, is that we fell in love with surfing, and we really wanted our children to grow up with the waves. My husband and I will never become really good surfers, hence this accident that I had a few months ago. But for them, it's going to be like their second nature. So it's something that we really wanted for them and also for ourselves.
You go to the beach every day?
I don't go to the beach every day, but I always make sure that I at least drive past the ocean. It's very interesting what it does. When you're stressed,
it calms you.
It calms you, just even looking at the waves. And I try to be in the water a few times a week. The conditions haven't been great lately, but we're waiting for a change. But yeah, it's something which is it's a major feature in our lives at the moment.
So how were those first months living here with the world completely closed, everything shut down, and you, as you mentioned, here in the middle of nothing? How did you feel, and how did your family react to that as well?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, for everyone, of course, in the world, I think this is one of the, I can't think of a lot of other examples where the world was one, you know, for once, instead of we were all in this situation in some way or another. And for us...
because you were in a foreign country.
We were in a foreign country. We were finally moving to, you know, to the place in the house of our dreams. So it was a very special period. Apart from the fact that I, way in the beginning, had COVID, and I had it really. I took it home from me from Paris Fashion Week. So apart from the fact that I was ill for a few months, we had an amazing time. It was discovering a new country, discovering a new language, setting up this house, and exploring the surroundings. So we were in nature, which was very fortunate. And I think in that sense, we didn't feel locked up, but we felt that we had an opportunity to discover something in a way that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to discover so intensely.
You mentioned discovering a new language. How do you deal with the difference of language here? Because you speak obviously great English. Do you speak any Portuguese? Do you?
Sì, dovremmo falar português. No, Dutch people speak a lot of languages, so I think that helps. I speak French, Italian, well, obviously English and Dutch, some German. So that helps, but it also doesn't help. So at the moment, my Italian is kind of like nowhere. But yeah, it's not a. I'm sure everyone will say this, but it's a difficult language to learn.
Most of Portuguese speak English, so do you think that's also makes it easier for you, for your kids to?
Well, I would say it makes it more difficult in a certain way. I would prefer, when I was living in Italy, I started the art academy.
That you had to learn
in Italy, and at that time practically no one spoke English, so it kind of forces you, and they're so enthusiastic when you try. So in a year's time, you know, you speak fluent Italian if you make a bit of an effort. And here it's taking a bit longer, I would say.
I imagine that if you travel a lot, as you mentioned before the interview, you probably don't have a fixed routine. But how would you say that is your typical day here in Malvada da Serra?
It's interesting that you touch upon routine, because regardless where I am, I start my day with 20 minutes to half an hour of yoga and Pilates. And when I'm here, one of the things that I always look forward to when I'm traveling is to get back and to get my hands kind of like, I always envision my hands in the earth and dirt. We built a very big garden, and it's practically like a small farm at the moment. So we're growing everything that you can eat, and we have chickens, and so that's one of the things that I always look forward to. So my day always includes some form of being in the garden and working there, and I would say that I do something with sports every day. So I combine that with work. So it's either surfing, hiking, mountain biking. There are lots of mountain bike trails around the house, yeah, so it's work from afar, because our company is in Amsterdam, and the main bulk of the team is in Amsterdam as well. So there's lots of video calling, meetings from here. But when I'm here, I really love to work from home, and I sculpt. That's my background. I'm a sculptor, so I try to incorporate sculpting, designing, speaking to clients or seeing clients. We do a lot of bespoke work, so I really build pieces around people, which I love to do. So it's very varied, but sports and being outside is always features in my days in Portugal.
What are your favorite places to go here?
When we have guests, we love to take them on coastal hikes, so that we take them into nature, we show them the ocean. Usually we go into the ocean, so if the conditions allow it, either to surf or to swim. Lisbon, which is very close by, we for sure will go into Lisbon for dinners or for the day. There is so much to see. I always thought in the beginning, before I moved to Portugal, it's mainly going to be Porto, Lisbon, and then of course like the beach. And the more and more I'm discovering, there's so many small little hidden places that, and there's still so much that we haven't discovered yet. So there's a lot to choose from.
Do you have any secret place like that, or a store or a restaurant that maybe you can share with us?
I made this mistake by doing like a huge article in the Vogue Living, and then everyone, saying, "Oh, I want to move to Portugal." So I've become very secret about my secret spots. A lot to choose from, but in Lisbon, I love the area Barrio Alto in Principal Real. There's a church there called São Roque, if I pronounce it correctly. And it has 2 huge windows with relics. So it's a little bit macabre, a little bit dark, but it's a beautiful church. It has a wooden ceiling with an amazing fresco. So that's a place that I always take guests who are visiting to. And then we have a coffee which I think is the best coffee place in Lisbon, called Bettina Corallo. And they've got amazing chocolate with like ginger and coffee nips and things like that in there. There's a very nice bookstore a few doors down. There's also, because I love bookstores, there's an independent English bookstore. There's also another bookstore in Lisbon that I love, it's very small and it's super curated, but the curation is amazing. Is salted books. It's in, you were saying? In Santos, yes. Exactly. And then here, more in my area, I always love Lusofonica. It's a small cafe where they also do the radio show, and you've just got the things that you want, like good avocado toast and good coffee. Some hidden beaches that we love. I would keep it.
I'm curious to know, are you also a fan of our fish? Because everybody that comes here talks about the food and especially the fish. Are you also a fan?
I am. I practically don't eat meat, so I'm a kind of a pescatarian. And I love the fish here. I do. Well, obviously the fish that you get in restaurants, but we do a robalo at home in sea salt, and eat quite a lot of raw fish as well. So we're in the right place. Yeah.
Yes. How does living here in Portugal reflects on your work or inspires your work?
Well, as I mentioned before, nature is a very big topic in my work. So a lot of the collections are based on nature, and a lot of the materials that I use, well, obviously stones and gold all comes from nature, but I also use a lot of raw materials from nature. So, for instance, scarab wings, so the actual wings from a beetle. I use fossilized mammoth tooth, which is 60,000 years old, which comes from under the Siberian permafrost and which has been in the ice all these years. So nature figures as a subject matter and as a material very predominantly in my work. And my most recent collection, which is Waves, is really based on our life here. So it's all about the ocean, riding waves, and we just launched a small capsule collection which falls within Waves, which is jellyfish. And obviously, jellyfish and the Portuguese man of war is something that you kind of don't want to come across while you're in the water, but at the same time, I'm really mesmerized by them. I did a collection based on Amsterdam when we moved away from Holland. And now Waves is my ode to Portugal and to our life here.
As you probably know, I mean, everybody knows, there are lots of people moving here in the last maybe 5-7 years. So Portugal has become kind of the new place to be. Mm-hmm. But the way you speak about moving here, it seems to be a very almost symbiotic change in your life. Like, as you mentioned, it was in your dreams. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel that
so many people are coming?
Yeah. How do you feel about that at the same time? Because as you mentioned as well, lots of people have this, we're going for 2 years and maybe we go because now it's fashionable to go, and
tax reasons, which you hear
about.
about.
Tax reasons, of course, and because it's cheaper. And how do you feel?
I think it's an interesting question, because there are a lot of people who come maybe for the wrong reasons. For instance, for tax reasons or things like that. The people that we meet and our friends are all people who have traveled the world, have lived in many places, and who have consciously chosen Portugal to be the highest quality of living. And they're all bringing something to the table, which I think is really important. From an ethical perspective, I think it's wrong to go somewhere and only kind of like take. You also have to bring something, you have to give something back, so to speak. It's the amount of people coming is sometimes a little bit nerve-wracking. So, also just Dutch people that I don't know who are contacting me, can you share your lists, your experiences? So that sometimes feels a little bit suffocating. And at the same time, I think there is a kind of an energy in the air at the moment of in Portugal. It's really having a moment, and I still think it's in a very positive way. And hopefully the crowds don't switch that to something negative. We always have to love. We have our best Portuguese friends who are super international, but they always tell this story that like 15, 20 years ago, if they would be in an international group, they would say, I'm Portuguese, and people would look at them like they were immigrants or something. And nowadays, this is their story. This is not me. This is not my interpretation. But now, of course, when you say Portugal,
I can attest.
Yeah, everyone says, "Oh wow, yeah, it's so cool." And I know this person and that person. And Portugal is so it's as you said, it's having a moment. And what you hope is that it's that Portugal can take this huge influx from people from everywhere across the world.
Do you put a timestamp on staying here, or are you here to stay?
We never moved here with the idea. What a lot of people do is that, okay, we're going for 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, or until the kids go to high school, for instance. But no, we're not going anywhere. We love it here, and we love this house, the lifestyle that we have, and I envision, although maybe at some time, we'll be kind of like dividing our time more 50-50 between Amsterdam, for instance, and Portugal, but we'll never really leave here.